Maranatha, and welcome to Septuagint versus Masoretic, the channel formerly known as Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. This is a channel where we look at the truth of the scriptures. We compare line by line the Septuagint, which was the translation of the scriptures that existed before Jesus Christ arrived the first time, and the Masoretic text, which came centuries after Jesus Christ had already arrived. So today we're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 9, and there are 29 verses. Let's see if there are any shocking differences we will notice today. In verse 1, we notice the word walled up to heaven versus fenced up. There's a significant, I should say in verse 2, there's an omission of the word many in regards to the sons of Anak. There's another significant difference here. It says here concerning. So this is an omission concerning whom you have heard. So this is in regards to others, what others are saying about them. Rather, in the Masoretic, it is expressed as they said about themselves. Verse 3, you shall know today, versus you shall understand, or understand therefore this day. He shall go before your face, versus he which goes over. So the Sept, or the Septuagint, is saying he shall do this. This is what he's going to do, versus he is known to do this. It's not a guarantee that he will do this. Significant difference, again, in the same verse, verse 3, turn them back. He shall turn them back, versus bring them down before your face, so shall you drive them out. A big difference here is an addition of you in the Masoretic. It says, you shall destroy them quickly. Shall you drive them out and destroy them quickly? Versus in the Septuagint, this is the doing of Yah. He's destroying them quickly, not them doing it. Verse 4, another big difference. Destroyed these nations versus cast them out. So we see that continual big difference throughout the translations, that they're not simply cast out, they're destroyed altogether. In verse 4, an addition of but for the wickedness of these nations, Yah does drive them out from before you. Significant difference in verse 5, holiness versus uprightness. An addition here, your Elohim. It doesn't say that in the Sept, in this specific verse. A significant and big difference here, destroy them. Again, Yah will destroy them from before you versus drive them out. So that is a continual difference. A big difference here, it says here in the Septuagint, establish the covenant versus perform the word. So it is more specific as to what is being done here. It is establishing the covenant, not just performing whatever word it is, whatever that means. It sounds more vague in the Masoretic. Verse 6, you shall know today versus understand. So you will know on a specific day, which is today, versus it's up to you to understand. It's not determined as to when you will understand, and it's not guaranteed you will even understand. It also says stiff-necked in the Septuagint for the first time that I can remember seeing it, at least. Might be the second time, but it is not a term, a descriptor used often in the Septuagint, referring to these people. Verse 7, an omission of how much you provoked. How much you provoked. So it's not just how you provoked, it's how much you provoked them. It was a lot. In addition to wrath, you provoked him to wrath. So no, in the Septuagint, you provoked him. It's not exactly sure if it is to wrath or not. And it says here, you continue to be disobedient toward Yah, versus you have been rebellious against. I think they're similar, in all honesty, but rebellious sounds a lot stronger. Disobedient seems more like due to weakness, perhaps. Not outright rebellion, but maybe just through ignorance. It's open to different possibilities, but rebelliousness is pretty straightforward. Rebelliousness. Verse 8, an omission of to wrath. You provoked. I should say that's an addition, isn't it? Provoked to wrath. Yah was angry. Okay, so that is an addition, not an omission. So that's an addition in verse 8. Just gonna edit that there. Verse 9, I was in the mountain versus I abode. So he lived in the mountain versus he was there for 40 days. Although when you are in the mountain for 40 days, 40 nights, you do live, technically you do live there. So it's just expressed differently, but it is expressing the similar situation. Verse 10, an omission of written, tables of stone written, with the finger of Elohim. Actually, no, it's right here. And on them, according to all the words. So it omitted written. It's here in brackets, but that is only inserted by the editors, just by the fact that it does exist in the Septuagint, which again predates the Masoretic. So how else would they know to insert these words unless the Septuagint did not exist? In addition as well of according to all the words. So according was added, and out of the midst of the fire. Verse 12, transgressed versus corrupted. So it's one thing to be corrupted and then irredeemable, but to transgress, you still can be saved and redeemed. Just my opinion, though. Verse 12, gone aside versus turned aside. Significant difference in 13. There's an omission of I've spoken to you once again. So this is Yah speaking to Moses, saying these specific words, I've spoken to you once and again, versus he just spoke to him. So these are words coming from his mouth, from Yah's mouth to Moses, that were omitted completely. So that, I think, is very disrespectful, and it leaves out an important detail. Verse 14, and now suffer me utterly, versus let me alone. Just leave me alone, I'll do this. It does seem similar. An omission of, and more numerous than this, rather than, actually it's not even there, so it is an omission. Verse 15, fire to heaven versus fire. Fire to heaven. So this is possibly fire that is reaching high, or just fire that is pointed up. In any case, it is fire to heaven. Testimonies versus covenant. Table of the testimonies. Okay. And verse 16, an addition of quickly. You turned aside quickly. So it's not just a matter of them turning aside, it happened very quickly. An omission of to keep. Yah commanded you to what? To keep. Here it doesn't say that in the Masoretic. Verse 17, an addition of your eyes. I broke them before your eyes. Verse 18, I made my petition. Versus I fell down. So it's one thing to fall down before him. Doesn't exactly mean you're making a petition to him. But here it is saying, yeah, he's making a petition. He's making a supplication to Yah as the intercessor in this case between man and God, acting as a kind of Mashiach in effect. Evil before Yah, doing evil before Yah Elohim to provoke him, versus wickedly in the sight of Yah to provoke him to anger. So they did evil versus doing wickedly in the sight of Yah, or I should say before Yah, to provoke him. So I think the difference is just wickedly versus anger, or I should say versus evil versus wickedly. Verse 19, greatly terrified versus afraid. So he wasn't simply afraid, he was greatly terrified. It's a higher level of fear. Wrath versus displeasure. So he wasn't just displeased, he was, or hot displeasure, he was angry. And you could say possibly very angry. Was provoked with you versus wrath against you. So, and it says provoked with you utterly. So this is a higher level again of anger, due to what they had done, the evil. Verse 20, he was angry with Aaron. So who was angry? Is this Moses? No, it says here, actually it does say Yah in the Masoretic. So it's already talking about Yah, listen to me at this time also, and he was angry. So just going by common sense, you can tell it's Yah. You don't have to name the name, but it does in the Maz. An addition of very angry. Yah was very angry with Aaron. No, he was just angry with him, but in any case, he was angry. Verse 21 says, fine. They ground up the calf, the molten image. They grounded it into fine. I should say it became fine. Became like dust versus was very small. And it says like dust. Here it says it was small as dust. Very similar in any case. Verse 22. There's an addition of to wrath. Provoked him to wrath. Which seems to follow the narrative at least. Verse 23, inherit the land versus possess. Seems to be interchangeable in both translations, where one would say inherit, one will say possess, and then sometimes they just use them as synonyms. So they're rather similar, but some people would have a problem with that, and understandably so. The word of Yah versus the commandment, against the commandment. Verse 24, the whole verse is different. You were disobedient in things relating to Yah from the day in which he became known to you, versus you have been rebellious against Yah from the day that I knew you. No, that's it's a lot harsher in the Masoretic. So they were disobedient, not just in anything, but in the things relating to Yah from the day in which he became known to you, versus what could possibly be taken as from the day Moses knew about them, because this could sound autobiographical in a way. But no, this is talking about, it's more specific, double in two ways. Verse 25, I prayed versus fell down. So again, similar to where he made a petition. So it sounds like the same kind of deal, where you prayed versus just falling down. Verse 25, an omission of the word utterly. He would utterly destroy you. So completely destroy, not just a part of you, because he can destroy maybe a segment of the population, or just, a few 100,000 here. But no, utterly means everybody. Verse 26, Elohim. I prayed to Elohim versus I prayed to Yah. big difference, there's an interesting title used here is Lord, King of Gods in the Septuagint. So Adonai, King, which would be Melech of Elohims. What is used in the Masoretic? It is Adonai Yah. So it removes the title of Melech of Elohim. So I've never heard that title before until now. King of Gods. Interesting, God of gods, Lord of lords. Brought out with your great power. You brought out of the land with your great power, and with your strong hand, and with your high arm, versus redeemed through your greatness, which you have brought forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Verse 27, an omission here of to whom you swore by yourself. So that is omitted. Hardness of heart of this people, and their impieties and their sins, versus stubbornness of this people, nor to their wickedness, nor to their sin. Verse 28, an omission here of the inhabitants of the land. Lest the inhabitants of the land. So it's not the land itself speaking, like the land is alive. Not saying it isn't alive, but it's referring to the inhabitants of the land, the people. It says he spoke to them versus he promised them. So he didn't promise them in this verse. He spoke to them. That's a big difference. Verse 29, great strength. Great strength, and with your mighty hand, and with your high arm, versus mighty power, and by stretched out arm. So there's so many big differences in here. Possibly, I think I'll go with King of Gods. I think that's the title of this video, is Yah, or Adonai, King of Gods. So thank you very much for your time. May Yah bless you and make your way prosperous. You've been watching Septuagint versus Masoretic. Tune in next time. We'll cover Deuteronomy 10, and the goal is to complete the full scriptures, not just the Septuagint, but including the Brit Hadashah, or the New Testament as well. So thank you once again, and do tune in next time.